Welcome to the Daily Dharma, a gentle podcast where we read a philosophical story every week and reflect on how it relates to everyday life. Our focus is to use Buddhist philosophy to understand the complexity of modern life and find achievable and accessible pathways to peace and happiness. Hi everyone, welcome to the Daily Dharma. In this episode, we'll be talking about how we can refocus the mind and why it's helpful to do so when we are experiencing a lot of stress. The story that we'll be reflecting on this theme is called An Unusual Prescription, and it comes from the book Zen Stories with Master Seiji by Daiki Shimada. Here's how the story goes. A young student grappling with the stress and pressure of exams found his way to Master Seiji, who was quietly tending to his garden within the grounds of his new residence. "Master, my exams weigh heavily on me, clouding my mind," he shared, his voice tinged with a hint of desperation. Without diverting his attention from a particularly stubborn weed, Master Seiji responded, "Carry that large stone at the edge of the garden to the town square and then come back." Bewildered but trusting, the student selected a hefty stone, one that demanded his full attention and strength to carry. The journey to the town square was long and arduous, focusing his mind entirely. Upon his return, the student, setting down the stone with a finality that seemed to echo in the quiet garden, shared with Master Seiji, "Master, I've done as you've asked, yet I'm really confused as to how this relates to my exams." "Well, what occupied your mind as you carried the stone?" said Seiji, looking up with a gentle curiosity in his eyes. "Nothing but the stone, Master. Its weight, its texture," the student began, a moment of realization dawning upon him. Master Seiji offered a small smile. "And so, for that short time period when you were carrying the stone, your mind was free from the weight of exams," he noted, before turning his attention back to the garden. The student paused for a moment, and then a thoughtful smile slowly formed as he grasped the lesson. This is a very short story, but I think one that is so simple and elegant in what it's trying to say, which is that ultimately the mind is this thing that grasps and ungrasps according to what we give it and how we direct it. And of course, there's so much more than just what we will our mind to do. There are environmental factors, there's societal pressure and conditioning, there's also the influence of the people around us. It is an unfortunate truth, but we tend to mimic and mirror what we see. And so when certain people have habits and tendencies, we tend to absorb them like a sponge. And it's only when we start to consciously question these tendencies that we really start to untangle our mind from them and unlearn them. And also with the hope of trying to actually learn good habits and tendencies. The reason why I think this story is so useful and relevant is because, especially when we are trying to untangle our minds from something that is particularly painful, a lot of the times we just end up refocusing on that thing even more. And the reason is because we try to intellectually or logically make ourselves less interested or convince ourselves that this is not something to be scared of. My anxiety is just completely made up. But sometimes, just like in the story, the easiest way to really take a break from this rumination is to push your mind to focus on something new. This is why grounding practices like taking a walk outside, doing a spot of exercise, having to do a hobby like painting or drawing or something that really takes all of your attention immediately into the moment actually provides a really much needed respite from the stresses of our everyday lives. And as much as we all want to develop our minds to the point that these kind of anxieties don't weigh us down anymore, it takes a very, very long time and a lot of time and space and meditation to really get there. So, in a way of more or less tricking our minds to let go temporarily of the things that are bothering us, if we infuse our days with these small moments of breaks, where, for example, we push ourselves to go outside and garden a little bit. And in doing so, all of our senses, all of our mental abilities are engaged in getting this task done. For a moment, we can put down the burden of our fears, our stresses, and anxieties because we're fully engaged. And what I find is in just simply refocusing the mind, even for such a short amount of time as 5 minutes, you can drastically feel different about the situation. I've observed this most acutely in moments of tension and frustration, such as an argument between myself and another person. Essentially, in simply just taking a break in the conversation, even just for a minute or two, already my mind is far more settled. Already, that frustration and anger that has been bubbling up actually calms down, and that sense of rumination, of tight spiraling and growing anger is stopped. And it is actually quite remarkable how quickly the mind is able to change and refocus and move in a different direction if we just have the boldness and the courage to stop it even for a second. And I would say that knowing what types of activities help you to refocus, that allow you to step away from your everyday stresses and your everyday, I would say, ruminations, these are life-saving activities that really do slowly, step by step, bring us in the right direction, because otherwise our mind would be spiraling in the wrong direction and essentially not allowing us even a moment of rest from being so entangled with the fears and anxieties that plague us. And overall, even though this is a very, very simple lesson, it really just demonstrates the truth about the mind, which is that if we give it something that fully occupies it, it has no choice but to refocus on something else. And when we are dealing with very powerful and difficult emotions and experiences, things that do not heal overnight, things that will take a long time to truly untangle and let go of, but giving ourselves those little breaks and making sure we make time for these little breaks can really make a huge difference in our day to day experiences. And it also reminds us that the mind isn't what it thinks it is, the mind is what we allow it and want it to be. And the thing is that we, in just giving ourselves that break, also remind ourselves that we are capable of being in that calm, focused headspace, even if it's just for a short amount of time. And just that little positive, changed atmosphere gives us that hope that maybe this can become more of our everyday rather than just brief periods of time when we're taking a break from our daily anxieties. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions or thoughts, please email dailydharmapodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you, and I hope you have a beautiful, safe, and joyful week ahead of you. Until next week.